been a while then, but we are back with another beginner's guide for Marvel Future Revolution. We'll be having a look at the latest character added to the game, the awesome Scarlet Witch. In this video we will cover absolutely everything you need to know for her. Now we start off with an overview so you can get an idea of how she plays, and if you're interested then you can find out more. We'll break down the potential for her, we'll have a look at the specialisations, we'll check out her skills, we'll have a look at the outfits, the battle badges and the mega cards, we'll talk about which companion is best on her, and then we'll finish up with some build ideas as well. So it really is everything you need to know about her. Now let's dive in, let's start off with the overview first. Not surprisingly then, Scarlet Witch is a ranged caster style character. She is a PvP focused hero. The developers said this before she actually came out, and looking at her kit you can see that is the case, but she still does very well in PvE as well. Now she has a ton of crowd control options, these are relevant for both PvE and PvP, and she's got various new status effects. They include Instability, Subdue, Curse of Weakness and Curse of Restraint, and we'll break them down in the skills section. She is quite similar to Doctor Strange in that she can make use of the max damage stat, and she can also make use of Mordo as a companion as well, something we will talk about later on in the video. But that's a quick overview of her. Let's now check out the potential that you can get on her. So there are various different sections that I've actually made infographics for. It's much easier than looking at the in-game UI, which can be a bit of a mess at times. So this is all the potential that is available for Scarlet Witch. It's essentially tailored stats that you can invest into to get more out of your character. Now the important part for this, because I realise there is a lot of information in it, is the total down the bottom. So I'm going to talk about the potential that you want to make a beeline for first. If you're maining her, you want to max out everything, but the ones that I would aim for first, I would go for attack. She's actually got attack in all 5 spell mastery slots, so that's really pretty amazing. That's a left hand side column there, so that's over 2000 attack you can get from that. Next up I would go for hit point. She doesn't have a lot, she's only got it under 1 of the options available, so it is on the lower side, but I would go for that. Other ones that I would aim for are crit damage. That can work really well for her when we look at our specialisations, and then cooldown decrease. That will be relevant when we start to talk about her ultimate ability in the skills section. But that is the potential. This particular infographic is available on my Discord. I'll put a link to it in the description below if you want to get a high res version of it. But let's look at the specialisations next. Specialisations then are a late game system you unlock, and it's the raids that you get the currency from this from. Now the currency does come really pretty slow, so in regards to specialisations you need to be careful on which ones you invest in, so that's why we're going to run over them here and I'll tell you which ones I believe are worthwhile. Now we'll start off with the left hand side tree. This is Hex Magic, so you've got high speed Hex. Now all the stats in these are maxed out, so I figured out what they would be at level 10, that's what you're seeing on screen here. So high speed Hex increases status effect accuracy rate by 25% and accuracy rate by 25% when battle lasts for 6 seconds. This would be nice in PvP if you're going up against a Spider-Man, for example, because accuracy is a counter to dodge. So this is nice, but I wouldn't say it's essential. You've then got Essence Aptitude, so increases all damage dealt to supervillains by 30% for 8 seconds when using a Hex Energy class skill. The cooldown is 15 seconds in this, so it's just over 50% uptime you get on it. 30% damage increase is nice, but it's just for bosses and it's only got a 50% uptime, so I'm not entirely sold on this one. Looking at Hex Domination, increased damage dealt to immobile targets or targets with status effects by 30%. When we look at her skills later on, you'll see certain trees she has, you can apply status effects almost all the time on enemies, so this could actually be a pretty nice one. 30% is a real decent amount as well. You then get Energy Equivalent Exchange, increase all skill damage dealt to enemies by 30%, and there's no cooldown or anything on this, but the required stamina for abilities goes up by 30%, so this is one that you would only really invest in it and activate it if you feel that you're not having any stamina issues on your character. If you are, then you don't want to go near this, but if you're not having any issues, and there are actually some ways to counter that in her kit, then the flat 30% damage that's got 100% uptime can definitely be worthwhile. The next tree we have here is Mystique Witchcraft. We start off with Witchcraft Dodge, which I think will be pretty great in Dimensional Duel. So increase movement speed by a whopping 25% for 2 seconds when using a dodge skill. When effect ends, decrease cooldown of all skills by 2.5 seconds, and it's got an overall cooldown, and then it can only proc every 12 seconds on this. So you'll go in, you'll fire off all your abilities, you'll quickly dodge out, you'll get the increased movement speed to pull further back, and then you get the cooldown decrease so you can get your skills back, and then you can just keep doing that in a loop. So I actually really quite like this. Now we then have Mystique Stamina. So recover stamina by 30% every 5 times a skill is used. This of course will be useful on a build with skills that have got a low cooldown, and this would work pretty nice alongside Energy Equivalent Exchange. That was the bottom specialisation in the first tree. We then have Witch's Branch. So fire magic that spreads to 5 enemies and deals 135% of attack and inflicts silence for 2 seconds when using Witchcraft class skill. It's got a cooldown of 12 seconds. This one I've got it at a lower level on the Scarlet Witch character I've got in game, but I'm not sold on it yet. If you've leveled it up, let me know what you think of this once you're dealing the extra damage on it. We then have Reality Break. So become immune to status effects for 8 seconds when using Witchcraft class skill, and it's got a cooldown of 14 seconds on it. So that's pretty high uptime. That's around about 60% uptime if you can time your Witchcraft skills right. So it'll be nice on the likes of Lofi, for example, because he's a boss that's very heavy in crowd control, but it'll be nice from a PvP perspective as well, having that, as mentioned, around about 60% immunity on crowd control. That's really pretty awesome. Finishing up here we have Chaos Control. The first one we look at is incredible, and I would say you want to max this as soon as you can. So it's Critical Chaos. Critical hit applied to all skills for 7 seconds after 3 max damage hits, cooldown of 12 seconds. So all your attacks essentially will have a 100% chance to crit, around about 60% uptime on this if you can get it to proc as often as you can. What makes this absolutely incredible, and the reason I recommend you go for it as soon as you can, is that this applies to your ultimate ability as well. So when you use your ultimate and you're firing off magic missiles like a machine gun, all of these will critically hit during the duration that this is available. So it's absolutely incredible. If you need some help with your max damage rate because you need to get 3 max damage hits to actually proc Critical Chaos, then you can use Chaos Tear. So this one here increases max damage rate by 67.5% with your gear. This would allow you to get probably over 100% with it. That's for 5 seconds when you use a Chaos class skill, and it's got a low cooldown of 7 seconds. There is a Chaos skill you can use that's got a cooldown of 8.5 seconds, so it would synergize perfectly with this. Next up we have Chaos Confusion. When attacked while your hit point is on or below 50%, you create an explosion dealing 135% of attack and inflict confusion for 3 seconds. Cooldown of 12 seconds. I wouldn't personally recommend this one. We then have a great PvP option. This one here is Chaos Reset, so increases target skill cooldown by 3 seconds when attacking a target within 5 seconds after using a Chaos class skill on a target that has a status effect. The tooltip's a little bit confusing, so you may have to read it a few times, but from a PvP perspective this one would actually be really pretty strong. But my favourite one without a doubt, once again, is Critical Chaos. That alongside your ultimate is just a thing of beauty. But that's the specialisations. Let's now check out some of the skills. For this skills section here then, I won't run over all of the skills because that would take an absolute age. Instead, for each of the different skill types I've selected an interesting skill that allows you to see a different aspect of Wanda's kit. Now the first one we're looking at is Hex Projection. So for your Hex based builds, which is more your PvE style damage builds, this is a fantastic ability. We've got Hex Lightning as the subtype. So with this one you can see the damage at the moment, and I'm not boosting it via gear or anything like that. It's 931% damage. So we'll easily get that over 1000% once we start to spec into Hex based gear. We have Chaos Magic up next. Now all 4 of the skills in this particular tree have this particular debuff, so you'll see that it applies a dot for 5 seconds when the skill lands, and with this it applies damage relative to 13% of attack per second. You've got Instability, which this adds, which is a new status effect, so it increases stamina consumption by 30% when using a skill and consumes additional dodge gauge by 30% when using a dodge skill. So that particular setup there is absolutely fantastic for PvP. We're back to Hex again here. We have Hex Illusion, so your Hex abilities by and large are all about damage, and I'm just showing this one off because once again it's a high damage ability. You can see without any buffs it's sitting at 915, so that's 2 Hex abilities. If you spec into it you can get over 1000 damage with them. We have our Chaos skill here. This one is Language of Demise, and we've got another set of curses that come with this particular one. So this one here, you inflict Curse of Constraint for 5 seconds when the skill lands. With this you decrease attack by 25% for 6 seconds when cursed target uses an attack skill. You deal damage equal to 19.1% of attack when the cursed target uses attack skills. That's pretty amazing. And then you've got Inflict Curse of Weakness as well for 5 seconds. So the Weakness Curse, the target is unable to dodge for 3.5 seconds when cursed targets use dodge skills. So if they dodge they can't dodge again, and it deals damage equal to 19.1% of attack when the cursed target uses dodge skills. So the first time they use it they won't be able to use it again for a few seconds, and they'll take a decent amount of damage as well. Also with this one, if that wasn't enough, you absorb 15% of damage dealt as HP as well. So pretty amazing ability line, this one. We have a Witchcraft based skill next. This is Witch's Darkness. Now these are more regular debuffs rather than the new ones, the curses and so on that Wanda has. So with this one here, I'm showing it off because you can see you've got decreased defense by 25% for 4 seconds when the skill lands. Back to Hex here for this next skill. This one's a little bit different, so you are doing a decent amount of damage with it, but we've got another new status effect. In this instance we've got Subdue, so subdue target with guard damage gauge below 50% for 1.5 seconds. So you need to get them into the state where their guard gauge is lower, but yeah, this is pretty decent here, and it's a relatively low cooldown on it as well. It's interesting to see new status types come into the game anyway. The next skill type we have here is Witch Tongue and then Reality Warp. This one for me is a lock-in if you're looking to run a build that's getting her ultimate off as soon as you can, and when you see her ultimate you'll see why we want to do that. But when you use this particular ability you recover up to 19.1% of your ultimate gauge, which is certainly very decent. Finishing up the regular skills here, another Witchcraft one. This particular one is increasing your attack damage. It does it in a different way from what we're used to. So this one increases attack damage by 5% for 5 seconds, but it actually stacks every time you get a tick at this, and then you can see at the end it increases attack by 30% for 10 seconds upon reaching max stacks with it. So it is nice to see them trying to do something different with some of the buffs here. Finishing up here we have the ultimate ability, the Darkhold, which is absolutely awesome. So with this it knocks down the enemy when the skill lands. It's got a duration of 15 seconds. During that duration it'll be firing off magic missiles all over the screen. Now those magic missiles, as we talked about earlier on in the video, you can get automatic crits with them via Specialisations. You've then got some enhancements as well, so your Hex type skills will gain 20% damage for the duration of this. Your Witchcraft skills decrease the Witchcraft class skill cooldown by 15% during duration, and then your Chaos skills increase status effect duration on the target by a whopping 75% for 15 seconds. So if you're looking to add a lot of the status effects, then this will work pretty amazing there. So overall a really pretty awesome ultimate, this one. Now let's check out the outfits for her. For the outfits then, with most players you actually start off with a non-regional and you'll work your way towards a regional unless you are a whale. So for the players that are wanting to start off with a non-regional first, the one I would probably recommend, none of them are that great and there's none that match the ideal skills for me, but I would say that Disassembled is probably the best of a bad bunch. This one will give you additional perks to your Hex release ability. You've then got your regional set. The ones I would go for Sanderf for PvE. So Sanderf is giving you that crit damage. It ties in really nice with the specialisation when you get 100% crit chance, and then on top of that it's given +6 to all of your Hex energy skills. So that's for PvE, because you would go for a Hex setup with PvE. In regards to PvP, I would probably go for the Sakaar outfit. So you're getting your crit damage once again, but you're getting a boost to your Chaos class skills, and your Chaos class skills are the one that have got all the interesting effects when it comes to PvP. So that's outfits, pretty simple section that one. Let's now look at the battle badges and the Omega cards. For the battle badges, this could probably be a video on its own, but I'm going to keep this as simple as I can. So when it comes to badges 1 and 2, which are your offensive badges, the stats you would be looking for, you're looking for attack and crit damage. Crit damage synergizes exceptionally well with the specialisation we talked about earlier on. Battle badges 3 and 4, always look for dodge on them, that can work out really nice. And then for battle badges 5 and 6, you're looking for ultimate gauge recovery and cooldown decrease as well. So that's the battle badges. Let's have a quick talk about the Omega cards now. The Omega cards then is another section that honestly it could probably be a video on its own, but I will try and keep this nice and simple for this video. Now when I go for Omega cards, I look for the fixed effect first because it's always there guaranteed on the card, so you're off to a good start. Now you're looking for crit damage. We've got 3 cards that would offer it here, so there's some examples there. It's up to you how many cards you want to run that have crit damage on it, because there's quite a lot available. We then have ultimate gauge recovery. I believe this is the only card that actually has that, so you definitely want to get this in your selection of 6. We have max damage rate should you need it, but it depends on the build you're running. And then you've also got cooldown decrease. It allows you to use the skill that gives you the ultimate gauge recovery even quicker. Now when it comes to upgrading your cards to 4-star, you've also got the exclusive stats that are available. Now the 3 that I would really look out for are the top 3. PvP damage increase and decrease, and cooldown decrease as well. If I got total damage or stamina recovery, I probably wouldn't take those cards any higher than 4-star. I would just use them as fodder to level up some other cards. But that is the Omega cards and the battle badges. Let's have a quick look at the companions now. For your companion selection then, I would say there's one that really stands head and shoulders above the rest for Wanda, and the setup where we'd be aiming towards. It's all due to the synergy with that ultimate ability and the 100% crits. You want to get your ultimate ability available as soon as you can. So you can see with Mordo, when he activates his ability, it will increase your damage, which is great, but you actually recover your ultimate gauge. In this instance it's by 14%. I've got him leveled pretty high because I did make a beeline for him. So that is a companion I would say you want to focus on if you're looking to build Wanda and you're looking to build a setup similar to the one I've talked about in this video. But let's finish up now, and we're actually going to talk about some build options that could be available for her. Now, we'll just mention before we do break this section down that this isn't a full theory crafted build or anything like that. It's just something I've been playing around with, and it's a nice fun way to finish up the video. So this particular setup, gear wise, I would use the Sanderf regional suit because hex damage will be your primary damage source. I'll be focusing on ultimate and skill cooldown as well as crit damage stat wise. In regards to specializations, I would go for the ones that I got really excited about earlier on in the video that give you the 100% crit rate with around about 60% uptime, and the specialisation that increases your max damage rate as well. Now the skills that we're using here, the first one is Witch Tongue, so this particular one is giving you your increased ultimate gauge. I'll mention it, or I should mention that I'll be using Mordo as well with this setup, so you've got 2 sources of increasing your ultimate gauge. The second ability here, I'm using it just as a damage buff because 30% for 10 seconds is actually really pretty nice there. We then move into a Chaos skill. Now you could potentially put another Hex one here for damage, but I'm using the Chaos skill so that we can proc the specialisation to get our max damage rate over 100%, so we can then proc the 100% crit rate specialisation. It's got a low cooldown of 8.5 seconds as well, and then we're into our damage abilities. So we've got Hex Energy, 915% damage, and then we also have Hex Projection. This one is 931 damage, and once they're buffed with the Sanderf suit that I don't have on at the moment because I'm still gearing up for that, then they will go over 1000%. But as mentioned, I will do a full build video, but this is something that will hopefully give you something to play around with in the next few days until I do get that video out. But with that, that's absolutely everything you need to know for Scarlet Witch and Marvel Future Revolution. If the video's been helpful, I've got beginner's guides such as this for all the other characters that are out in the game, and they'll all be included in the same playlist for this particular one. But thanks for tuning in for this one. Stay safe. I'll see you all again soon.